If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to Fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's Fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by a newbie. He has his own podcast, but he has never been on this podcast before. Mr. Mark Begley, podcaster in his own right of the Wake Up Heavy podcast.
Easy, girls. There's at least 2 portions here.
Oh, first off, I want to thank you for apparently going to the Mike White School of Podcasting, where you don't just say hello. To all of you future guests out there, just saying hello is boring. I know you. The guests know you. Give me something to chew on, because I'll tell you what, 18 again? I'm chewing on it right now. It's been in my mouth all day. Mark is here to join me. Before we talk about the movie, Mark, tell the listeners of the Kulturecast a little bit about your podcast, The Wake Up Heavy.
Well, Wake Up Heavy is mainly me talking about horror films. I do take tangents every now and again, but horror films that I watched when I was in my preteens and teens that kind of laid the whammy on my brain. And so go through that. I've done series on Stephen King movies. I've done some other tangents. So kind of a mishmash. Eventually I will run out of movies that I watched in my teens that laid the whammy on me. So I kind of try to branch out a little bit. And this year has been very sparse. I have done, I think, 13 episodes. Last year I did 45. So with this whole COVID thing and being stuck at home with my daughter most of the time, it's kind of cut into the old podcasting game.
Was there a pandemic going on?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Fuck that shit. We're not having that conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I've noticed, though, when we're talking about podcasting, like, you were in one of two camps. You're either like, I can't podcast anymore because I literally just can't do it because my lifestyle has changed substantively, or you were like, I have all this free time all of a sudden, and like there was not like a happy middle ground, unfortunately, because obviously, like you just said, you have a daughter, and if she's around, it's going to be hard to do anything like this. And so, obviously, a lot of working parents were finding that out very quickly. But it is kind of crazy that, like, the podcasting industry, we've seen a bunch of new podcasts show up, and a bunch of podcasts that, like you were saying, we're putting out consistent content. All of a sudden, we're just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Like, it's unfortunate. It really is.
I was surprised, but my brain has been a little bit mushy. Plus, I don't have to do much with her here, but just having another person here has sort of kind of taken that the way I used to do, just kind of huddle in this room by myself with no one else around. And for some reason, I feel like I can't do that as freely. So,
oh, sure. No, I completely understand. So you're here now, and we're going to talk about 18 again. So let's sit down and talk about the final body swap movie, of December and the final Kulturecast of December. So,
happy birthday to you.
George Burns is Jack Watson, ladies' man.
Do you think she's a little too young for you?
Look, I'd go out with women my age, but there are no women my age.
And birthday boy.
I wish I could do it again because I had that much fun.
But this year, he's celebrating
Grandpa!
in his grandson David's body.
Are you all right?
Fine.
What the hell happened to my voice?
Do you believe that a person can go from one body to another? Charlie, I got my wish. I'm 18 again.
He thinks like George Burns.
Maybe you'd rather be hang gliding or something.
What, with my arthritis?
But he looks a lot younger.
You got any decent cognac in this place?
Now he's going back to school.
Do you have a problem?
Do you realize the last time I saw a naked lady?
Last Thursday.
Meeting the student body.
But you said you didn't want to dance.
And having the time of his life.
Okay, my spin is a little off.
The second time around.
Well, you're honest at least.
What am I doing? I'm cheating on my own grandson.
You had it all. And now you really have it all.
George Burns.
Come back. I can't wait.
Do you mind if I finish this cigar?
Charlie Schlatter.
Anything else you want to know, Professor? Don't hesitate to ask.
18 again.
the film is directed by Paul Flaherty. It is written by Josh Goldstein and Jonathan Pryce. It stars George Burns and Charlie Schlatter, and there's a whole bunch of supporting characters and some really, I would say, really recognizable actors that are in this movie that I didn't even realize were in it until I started watching it. But the movie, again, is a body swap movie, but similarly to a movie we were supposed to talk about on the last episode, but that episode unfortunately did not happen, Dream a Little Dream. It is less of a body swap movie and more of a possession movie.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, and I think that we'll talk about that. But Mark, you and I had talked before this podcast on Facebook Messenger a little bit about, you know, this month and kind of this is not something that you're innately prepared to talk about outright. So I know you'd never seen this, but what did you think watching 18 again?
Well, I went ahead and did a little bit of homework, and I wanted to be able to compare and contrast, even if for my own benefit. So I kind of made my daughter watch the rest of them with me, except for Dream a Little Dream. But we started, basically went in chronological order. So started with Like Father, Like Son. Then
so now I have to ask you. So just no, every time you mention one, just tell me what you thought. So Like Father, Like Son, what'd you think of that one?
I hated it.
Why did you hate it?
It was just so flat to me the whole time. And Kirk Cameron was such a dud. And even Dudley Moore, who I enjoy and have enjoyed throughout the years, they didn't ring true as each other for me. And the whole body swap deal makes me anxious. And this I kind of realized after a while, like watching Seinfeld and other sitcoms where they're comedies of error.
Right.
Those really stress me out. And I just can't handle all of the situations that go bad, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens
because he's a doctor, right?
Right. And so they kind of stress me out a little bit, but I had her rate things with me, so I think she gave it 2 out of 5, and I was like 1 out of 5. I'm like, we're lucky we made it through this one.
Oh man!
And to kind of preface this, I didn't realize that your episodes for a couple of these were already out. I was thinking that they were for January and not for December.
Sure.
And so I started listening to the openings of both of them earlier today and was like, oh, they're way more positive about these movies than I am. And I started to feel like a kind of a curmudgeon or a movie snob or something because I could barely get through most of them. 18 again was the next because, like I started to say, we went in chronological order. for no other reason, but just to see how they kind of progressed, and enjoyed this one way more. And part of that was that it wasn't a body swap movie, so I didn't have to see...
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to Fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's Fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
I didn't have to see George Burns running around acting like an 18-year-old, which kind of alleviated the stress a little bit.
I kind of also was a whole we've booked ourselves into a position where we can't do that.
Right.
George Burns is 86 at the time?
He's older than he's supposed to be. I know that because I was, telling my daughter, okay, this guy's been around forever. He started in vaudeville. I mean, basically before there were even movies really. And,
right. Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, 81. No, he's older than that. And then she's like, well, he's 81 because it's got to be reverse of 18. And I was like, oh, thank you, smart child. And, but I was pleasantly surprised that he got to lay in his bed in a coma through the whole movie. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched it yet. But then we watched Vice Versa, and that was sort of middle of the road for me. Interesting. I like to see what the gag is for the swap or for the switch or for the possession. So that had a nice opening there with that. And I was kind of confused until I realized, okay, this is going to continue on. And that guy is going to show up later on with that potion that he basically stole. And then I watched Freaky on my own because she's 13 and I wasn't sure of the content of that one.
You made the right choice on that one.
And I enjoyed that. Horror comedy is not really my bag. I enjoyed that one fairly well. It did stress me out a little bit because you've got to go through the whole confusion thing and explaining who you are and, having that whole scene where you explain to your friends or your family the thing that only you could possibly know as this person that's in this other body. And then I tried to watch A Little Dream today. I started it and again was happy that, like 18 again, it doesn't actually have the body swapping. We don't have Jason Robards running around acting like Corey Feldman. He's in dreamland through most of the movie. And I realized after about an hour, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an hour more of this. I don't think I can do it.
And I'm glad you turned it off because it was. The unfortunate thing is, and for as much as you watch Dream a Little Dream, let's take an opportunity to talk a little bit about it because I didn't get to talk about it at all. Mm-hmm. That episode ended up not happening. That movie, I couldn't understand what the fuck it was going for. Like, it was like a tonal mess through that first hour, and the second hour does not get any better. It actually degrades even farther to where there's a point where there's a character pointing a gun at multiple characters.
I went back to the end and caught that part at that party or whatever it was, and because I wanted to see how they swapped back or switched back, and I was like, oh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, and they never even explain how he switches back. Oh my god.
Yeah. They're all kind of a mess when you get down to it. I think 18 again is a little less of a mess. Maybe because it's a little more simple. It's really just a vehicle for Charlie Schlatter to do his George Burns for a good hour and 15 minutes. And he does a pretty good George Burns. So
it's actually really good, right? Like, I would say of all the people, and again, you've essentially watched as much this month as I have. So first off, I am so sorry. Secondly, I am so thankful.
You didn't make me do it, so
sure,
I can't really say, Dimmy, why you do this to me, but
sure. But at the same time, like, I would agree. Of all the movies I watched this month, even though this isn't my favorite one that I've watched, Charlie Schlatter captures George Burns, his essence, so believably that it almost negates all the other problems I have with this movie. It's such a charismatic performance.
Yeah, I think out of all of them, he is really the only one that pulls off the, this person is inside of me. The other ones, like with Kirk Cameron, I didn't get, other than yelling. That's what adults do, is yell. So he's just going to yell the whole time. That's all I got out of the Kirk Cameron being Dudley Moore, being dad in that. Judge Reinhold pulled off the, kid acting aspect pretty well.
But in the wrong geography of the country. They're in Chicago and he's acting like a surfer bro. Like, that's the one... Like, that choice makes no sense to me because that's not the Fred Savage character, like, at all.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't, to me, seem like Fred Savage. He's just doing the kid thing, which, that's the part of these that really can make or break it. And I know that in one of the discussions, you talk about how Big is not technically a body swap movie. It's basically the same idea, though, of having a 12-year-old inside of a grown-up body, and I think that Tom Hanks, does it the best with subtlety and small little, glances or just kind of tittering about something, as a 12-year-old. I think he plays it a little too young in a lot of cases in Big, but it's more realistic to me. He's not playing a kid. He's trying to be a kid. It's more of a, method or whatever you want to call it. But it comes out as more genuine to me than other just going, oh man, Dad, that's, I'm big. I have to go to your office now. Oh no, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which can get a little grating if they're not pulling it off. And Judge Reinhold pulls it off pretty well, but it still was fairly grating to me.
Yeah, and then in Freaky, you have essentially nothing. Like, there is no, like, Freaky, as far as I'm concerned, failed the hardest this month because the body swap, like, the personalities never mattered because the character of the Blissfield Butcher was never given a personality. So anything that he imparts onto the Catherine Newton character is, like it makes no sense. It's never established in the universe as, like, being motivated by anything. And that's because that movie doesn't ever actually give you an opportunity to see the Blissfield Butcher as a character. He's just more of a plot device.
And all he really, or she, has to do is sneer.
Yeah. Like, drop your gaze, like tilt your head down a little bit and stare straight on. And you've nailed that character. And to be fair, for that movie, that's all it kind of needed. Because again, the character is such a cipher that it doesn't matter anyways. Like, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I didn't expect much from a movie like Freaky, but I was more impressed with it than I should have been. But for 18 again, like, you mentioned already the vehicle through which the body swap occurs. And this one feels the most organic and least on the nose, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's really generic in a way. They crash through an antique store
and they blow out the candles at the same time.
Right, yeah. Which is like one of the coolest shots in the movie, that doubling of them on the different sides of the... That big 81 candle is a little bit askew, so you can see, it's 81 on this side, it's 18 on that side, and nice lighting and slow motion and all that. That was pretty cool. And then since it's not mystical, or they don't appropriate another culture to make it happen, I kind of appreciated that, because that sort of seems to be the norm in a lot of these things.
Oh yeah, they did it in Freaky, they did it in Dream a Little Dream, they did it in Like Father Like Son, and in Vice Versa. Right, and even literally everything but this one.
And if I throw Big in there again, it's a Swami or whatever in that deal. So
Zoltar, right?
That other, the magical, the
magical Middle Easterners,
the Orient, as they used to say.
Sure.
So.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to Fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's Fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Or native, or Indian culture, as I'm assuming is what we were supposed to get from Like Father, Like Son.
Yeah. But in this one, it's a little, like you said, it's a little generic, but like not in a bad way. Like I kind of felt like, not saying that like this could quote unquote happen, but like the vehicle through which this movie gets them to body swap is so low key that when they swap back, because that's the thing, right? Like that's the crux of these movies is it's like a Rubik's Cube. You have to mix it up and then you got to get it back to the starting spot. And so how do they get there and then how do they get back? They have to do that thing twice.
Right.
And it has to be believable both times. And the problem with Freaky that I had with Freaky was like you being fucking stabbed twice. Like the second time someone has to die. And like they kind of play around with that in that movie. But in this movie, like it made more sense than like anything else has because it's so generic.
Right. And for me, it takes a little bit, again, of that anxiety out of it. Like, are they going to be able to do it? And in, which one was it? In Vice Versa, they kind of try. He says the wish, but they don't realize that you have to both be holding the skull when you do it. And everybody else in the audience is going, you both, come on. It's not that hard to figure out. The only two things you really did was make a wish and you were both holding it. And then you've got, the people coming after and all that. And that's when I start going crazy. But the Like Father, Like Son thing made a little more sense because they knew what it was. They figured that out pretty quickly. It was just, okay, the crazy uncle is gone. So how are we going to get it back? And that problem was basically assigned to Sean Astin's character to solve. So less stressful for me. This anxiety thing will probably come up a lot just because that's probably why I never watched these when I was younger, although these came out when I was 19 or 20, and I was probably just a pretentious movie snob at the time. So
I was going to say, this movie would have been made for like someone your age at the time, right? Like,
I feel like these play. I mean, 18
I don't know.
again.
Like, is George Burns popular with the 18-year-old crowd in '88? Like, one of the reviewers, Janet Maslin, her review of the film was like, George Burns was who people came to see, and he's in a fucking coma all movie. Like, who? What? Like,
no. I mean,
who was coming to see George? What? Like, who the fuck was coming to see what movie? When? What?
He was. I mean. Okay, so I grew up in the 70s, or I was a kid in the 70s, and he was still very popular and very well known. I think he was on just about every variety show, plus all the stuff that was in syndication, or I never saw like the old Georgie and Gracie show or whatever, like anything like that, but he would be on Lucille Ball's shows, whatever ones she had after I Love Lucy. She had some shows in the 60s and 70s, and those were all on syndication, or he'd be on The Love Boat or whatever. I remember seeing him in things like Going in Style and The Sunshine Boys when they played on TV. I would watch those with my dad. So I knew who George Burns was from a pretty young age, but at 18 years old, that's not why I would go see a movie.
Right.
Maybe when I was 10 and he was in Oh God, but it really still wasn't to go see him. It wouldn't have been, hey, Pops, take me to the George Burns show,
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. Like, with something like Vice Versa or Freaky or, Like Father, Like Son, I see what the appeal is for almost both crowds. And with this movie, I don't. And Janet Maslin's critique, I would say, is correct if you were the people who were going to see this movie for George Burns. Because, like we've already mentioned, this is the Charlie Schlatter show, and he's fantastic as a 18-year-old, evoking George Burns. He's not doing an impersonation, but he's evoking him because, again, the George Burns character of Jack Watson in this movie is pretty much just George Burns.
Right.
It's just him doing his George Burns shtick, which is amazing. I mean, it's great. There's a reason why the man was a centenarian working and still, having a reason to be working and not just working because he needs to make money. And if you came to see this movie because you wanted to see George Burns, you are going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I can't imagine that was very many people's motivation.
Right, but,
I think it was, 80s teen body swap, and this might get some septuagenarians in the theater as well. Those guys would probably be disappointed, but they're not. I don't think they were the target audience. This is the one movie where I actually buy all of these people as family, from George Burns to his son, played by Tony Roberts. I can buy that. And there's early on when David comes back to the frat, he looks up and sees a picture of his grandpa there in the fraternity, because he's a legacy, I guess. And I think they manipulated the portrait a little bit because it looks like a very good mix of a young George Burns and Charlie Schlatter. So I actually had to look. I'm like, man, that they did a really smart job of casting this, because he sort of looks like George Burns, And so I looked up old pictures of George Burns, and I think they kind of fudged the portrait in that scene a little bit to make it match even better. But I can buy those three as three generations of men in that family. As far as the rest,
not seem like a big deal, but like
it helps.
These movies, you have to sell it.
It helps, because in the other movies, I don't buy any of it. Now, it doesn't matter in Dream a Little Dream because they're not related. But Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage don't look anything alike. Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron don't look anything alike.
Dudley Moore has a British accent.
Yeah, and they don't, so this, I can buy it. Plus, like we've mentioned already, Schlatter does a very good George Burns. Not like you said, not an imitation, but he gets that, the lip thing and the, like how Billy Crystal basically would do it, George Burns. He has that, not as extreme, but it's there, and the squinty eyes and the doing the hands and stuff. It's good. It really does help sell that is him inside of there.
And, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen these videos. I think is it Wired that does them? But they bring like a vocal coach in and they have him like sit on one side of the screen. On the other side of the screen, they're just showing clips from movies. And this vocal linguistics coach is like critiquing, you know, actors going through performances. And like some of them, they're doing imitations of like, you know, Natalie Portman as, you know, Jackie Onassis Kennedy, or, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln. And he always talks about imitation and evocation. And with these body swap movies, you know, evocation is more about giving you the sense that the person is there, but not an outright imitation. Mm-hmm. And that is what Charlie Schlatter is doing. Because it's not an impersonation. You know, if it were an impersonation, I don't think this movie would work at all. I think you would be sitting and watching this movie going, what the fuck are we watching right here?
Yeah, I mean,
Which still to some extent, like, I'm still sitting and wondering why the fuck is a movie about a George Burns in his 80s swapping into an 18-year-old's body, something that's coming out in 1988. But because it's here and we need to talk about it, so there you go. But it's a fucking weird premise because, again, it's 88. It's George Burns.
Right. And there isn't a lot at stake in this one, which probably would make it the most boring of the group that you selected. Again, for me, it kind of let me relax a little bit. But when you think about the
all of a sudden, like there's like stakes all of a sudden, and then it's like, what? They come out of nowhere, right?
But they're not like having a kid in his dad's body who's a surgeon stakes, or a kid in a dad's body who's the I can't remember what Judge Reinhold's position was, but he was pretty high up in that.
Generic business.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Man.
Yeah.
Ad executive, as they would like to say.
Yes. In that, you know, obviously pretty major company in Chicago. Those are higher stakes. This is just, I'm 18 again and I'm back in college and I don't really have many problems to solve for this kid other than maybe he needs some self-esteem. But that doesn't even pan out because he doesn't know that any of this happened. He's been in a coma.
Oh my God. Thank you for bringing it up because it has driven me fucking nuts since I watched this movie. What? Was it all a fucking dream? It wasn't, but like it's treated kind of like it was.
Well, I for me, it was like, okay, they crashed through the stained glass and effectively swapped back. Again,
because they touched hands and they crashed.
Right, touch hands and crashed again through glass. That may be part of it. And since David was in George Burns, I forget the character's name. Jack?
Jack, yeah.
Okay, so David was in Jack's body this whole time, but Jack was in a coma. So in effect, David was in a coma. it seemed to me he had no recollection of anything. He didn't realize that his body had been inhabited by his grandfather this however many weeks or days or months it was. And so
yet he doesn't ask why his mouth tastes like fucking cigar?
Or any, his kind of new relationship with the girl he's been pining for the whole time. Stuff just sort of happens and he doesn't really question it. It's not so out of the ordinary that it's like, what? The only thing that might tip him off is why his nemesis, palms $1,000 in his, or, puts $1,000 in his palm after he wins the race. He's like, well, why is he paying me?
Second body swap movie with a foot race. I don't understand what the fuck the obsession with foot races is. I would have thought Like Father, Like Son would have been the only foot race I would have to watch this month, but I've seen 4 goddamn foot races now, because not only do you have to have one in a movie, you have to have another one.
Right. I was thinking about that today, because when my daughter and I watched those, we're like, oh, hey, we were trying to find all the connections. Like, oh, this has got track in it too. And I think it's just the easiest thing to have maybe a non-sports kid do.
Yeah, because Charlie Schlatter is a not like a big buff dude. He's like a...
Yeah, he's fairly slight.
Yeah, you know what I never understood about this movie until it got to the very end? Charlie Schlatter's character is supposed to be like a sensitive kid. Like, he's like... wants to go in. Yeah, he wants to go into art and be like an artist, and like they do a really shitty job of letting you know that early on, because like he's in a fraternity,
right?
And you don't really get the sense that this character is like the good guy character that he is, because like I genuinely get a sense that the Charlie Schlatter character, when he's playing himself, not when he's being inhabited by someone else, is like a good person.
Right.
Who just is not interested in things other people want, because that's just not who he is. And that perception is the problem more than anything else. But the movie does a really bad job of cluing you into that.
I think there's a lot of things that they miss out on cluing you in on. The father-son relationship between George Burns and Tony Roberts is played with a little bit at the beginning, but pretty much forgotten for the rest of the movie until the end, when everyone thinks that George Burns has died because they pulled the plug on him. But that could have informed more of the movie, and maybe it did. This isn't a projection booth where we've read the scripts and the different drafts of the script and, seen different cuts of the movie and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed like there's an issue between father and grandfather. He's always treated him poorly. That's brought up. It's implied and even, said kind of explicitly. You kind of get the idea that dad is also doing that to son, Charlie Schlatter, having him be an accountant in this family business, which he probably doesn't want to do because he wants to be an artist. But none of that stuff is really drawn very, it's all drawn very thinly. And at the end, we get a reconciliation, and then George Burns finally says, well, have you ever asked David what he wants to do? And so it's all wrapped up, but it wasn't a big part of the movie to begin with. So there's lots of those things where they didn't really flesh stuff out. It just seems like it became a vehicle for the Charlie Schlatter show.
Well, and then you have someone like Anita Morris, who her entire character exists for that sole reason. And again, given way more importance at the end than it was almost through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, a lot of people, drop. I mean, Pauly Shore almost completely drops out of the movie at one point. He's in the first 3 or 4 scenes, and then when it kind of becomes more about David wooing Robin, then he's gone. And then he shows up at the very end at the race and cheers him on. And, I'm not saying that more Pauly Shore would have been better, but I was happy to see that he wasn't the weasel in this. He was just kind of a normal dude. So I could have borne with more Pauly Shore in there.
I was about to say, I'm right there with you. I was not in the camp of, I didn't... I looked over the cast before I watched the movie, and I guess I just kind of looked over the fact that Pauly Shore was in it. But yeah, like you said, it's not this It's not the grating nonsense that we would be so accustomed to with Pauly Shore, like, 2 or 3 years later. And he's good enough, but yeah, it feels almost like everyone is not given enough to do other than Charlie Schlatter. And again, Charlie Schlatter is good, but
what's the point of having a whole movie about a guy,
You want to do this as like a two-man show? Because like this could have worked as like a two-man stage show. Like there are things about this that like you could take George Burns and a younger comedic actor and do like a, 1,000-year-old man, like Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. I mean, you could do something like that where it's like a body swap thing because like Charlie Schlatter does a good evocation of George Burns, but like this is not the way to use it. Like you could have come up with another scenario where there would have been stakes, where the story you were telling didn't fall so flat.
Yeah, and even with the young wife, George Burns, gold-digging wife, it's still not, I mean, you got to know what the scenario is here, right? It can't be any surprise that she's going to fool around while he's in a coma. He gives her half of everything in the will, and then that's just sprung on you all of a sudden at the end of the movie when they find out that they've pulled the plug. So there wasn't that drama before with maybe the Tony Roberts character and the new wife and fighting over the company. None of that, Again, that's probably stuff that would have stressed me out while watching it. So while I'm watching it, I don't miss it. But when I think back on it, it's like, what was the point of all of this? Again, there's no struggle. There's no real relationship to mend because the grandpa and the grandson are on good terms at the beginning of the movie. They like each other.
Yeah.
Unlike, the father and the grandfather and the father and the son. And there's no real... I mean, there's always a relationship drama. I think in every one of these, we've got a guy pining for a girl who's spoken for by, a dickhead. I mean, that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's in every one. I can't remember if that's
aside from Freaky, but
right. But Dream a Little Dream, which is where that all got confused because sometimes it seemed like those two were friends, the Corey Feldman and the character named Joel. But then they weren't, and then they're both pining for Meredith Salinger. And
hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Blah, blah, blah. And I guess we avoid that and vice versa because Fred Savage is pretty young. So, but all the other ones,
No, vice versa has its own problems, like Fred Savage looking at his father's cock and going, oh, this is great.
I think
at least we didn't get that in this movie. I swear to God, Mark, would have turned this shit straight off if you know where I'm going with this. If for some reason Josh Goldstein and Jonathan Pryce took it upon themselves to have Anita Morris and Charlie Schlatter fuck.
Yeah.
I was like,
I was half expecting it, but
me too, really. I was expecting it until they did that scene early on in the movie where it was like they're setting this up for like she's, the like nympho gold digger and like, she's not getting any from the old man, so she's going to go and get it from the rest of his family. Like once they did that, I was like, okay, they're not going to go the route that I thought. But like, I was like, they're going to do it and it's going to be fucking terrible.
Well, that brings up something, and I don't know if you guys got to this on the other episodes that you did, but there always has to be, especially when it's the father-son swap, which 2 of these are. There has to be there can't be a wife, there can't be a mom. It has to be
at least not in the house.
Right, mom is dead, or there's a stepmom, because otherwise you've got to confront that Oedipal scenario where I'm in my dad's body, my dad is married to my mom, and my mom is going to want to do it with me. And so these basically avoid that altogether. I can't remember what each scenario was, but I know that there was not a mom present in like Father Like Son. There was not one present in Vice Versa. Oh, she was present, but she was remarried, so she wasn't in the house.
But to be fair, in Vice Versa, Judge Reinhold's girlfriend almost kisses Fred Savage as a Judge Reinhold's in her body.
It has to be. It has to be somebody else. Not that it can't be somebody, but and then you've got to watch with the age thing, which was always the part. And again, I know that Big isn't really included in this, but that's always the part in Big where you're going, you're fucking a 12-year-old. You know?
Yeah, like you can't. It's like in Freaky, like the same thing. It's like your body, like even if you weren't controlling your body still murdered people. Like,
right?
You can't like change that. And it's like, I mean, you know, I was expecting it in this movie. You know,
it would have made more sense, and I mean, it could have worked if done properly. I kind of liked it. I mean, especially since I was watching with my daughter, but I kind of liked that they didn't. But it could have worked, you know, not related in any way. You know, she's quite a bit younger than Grandpa, obviously. Still older than him. You kind of get that older woman. I mean, that's a very 80s thing. You know, My Tutor, all those other movies in the 80s that explored older women and guys in either high school or college. So they could have played around with that. But you have to have a pretty deft touch to make it not super creepy and gross.
Well, and again, like you said, they avoid the horrifying "I'm gonna have to bang my mom" thing every time, and like it's so obvious every time that they have to avoid it.
Right, you're not going to have a
male or female
traditional
body swap character.
Yeah, you're not going to have a traditional family unit in a house in a body swap movie, or if you are, then that's going to be the joke. And I mean, it's like Back to the Future, basically. Then you're getting into that whole thing of him having to avoid his lecherous mom the whole movie, which they do a decent job. It's still icky. I mean, it's still gross.
It probably says more about Bob Gale than it does about the people who are watching the movie.
Right. So, you know, and again, it just always, I always wish at the end of Big that you had a real strong just flash. You kind of get a flash in her eye of like, oh, you know, when he changes back into a kid on the street. But I really wish they had kind of nailed that a little bit better. Like, oh, yeah, he's 12, you know, that I think they avoided that. But everybody knows what's going on in that movie. So anyway, that's my thing about Big. I think they missed the landing on that.
I have very little interest in watching it now because I mean, again, like in Vice Versa, like it made me uncomfortable to hear Judge Reinhold pretending to be Fred Savage, looking at his dick and being like, "Whoa, great!" Yeah. Like I don't want to imagine like what that looks like when it actually happens because what you've effectively has described to me is that scenario from Vice Versa, but he does fuck the lady.
Yeah.
And it's like,
right.
It's like, oh man. Right? Because that was the thing in Vice Versa that this movie doesn't do, is it doesn't plumb the depths of like, well, you're a kid in your dad's body, so you could bang the girlfriend, but your dad's in your kid body, and he is with the girlfriend in his body normally, so he wants to get with her too. And like, they don't go there in any of these movies, thank God. But like, I don't like that they even open that box up even a little bit.
Yeah, that's did they not do weird. That in like Father Like Son too?
Yeah, because the woman that was like coming on to Dudley Moore all the time. But again, in that movie, the kid's essentially 18. Right?
Does Kirk Cameron check himself out though when he's Dudley Moore? Although
I don't think so.
He's bigger than Dudley Moore, so maybe that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think so. I think that only the joke is used in Vice Versa. Because it's the only one where it like kind of makes sense.
And I guess it's used in Big. So we actually watched Big recently with my daughter, so I'm probably conflating that as well. I think I've
never seen Big, so...
Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure when he first wakes up, he does that. So.
Oh, God. I mean, they don't do it in this movie, but in this movie, it has its own problems. I'm really disappointed by how little used the supporting characters are, because in so many more of these movies... At least the ones we've seen this month, the supporting characters are almost better than the main character.
Right. Yeah. I'll even give that to Sean Astin in Like Father Like Son. I enjoyed him oodles more than Kirk Cameron, but he was still it was still really broadly drawn 80s, high school dude. It kind of comes back to that whole thing of like, who's writing this? Who is writing these things? These aren't people with their fingers on the pulse of teen culture at the time. And nothing drives me battier than really awful faux teen dialogue in movies. It's a little bit easier to get away with in an 80s movie since I'm so far removed from it now, but generally none of it rings very true. So that was kind of also nice to avoid that in 18 Again, because he's using old-timey slang and things like that, and not, we don't get to see George Burns going gnarly dude or something like that.
If they had made this movie in 2020, if they could make movies in 2020 with like an old man and a young guy's body, like it would totally work. It's like the fucking Macklemore song Thrift Store. Like, oh, I'm going to just dress like I did back in the 70s and like you totally get away with it. Dude, that totally works now in 2020. Like, and it's weird to me because like I genuinely don't think in 88 having a flapper party would have been something that like any fraternity would have done.
Yeah.
But like you could do it now in 2020, like it would totally work. Like it really would.
Well, that'll probably be all the rage in the next decade since we're
it is
going
the 20s
into the roaring
again.
20s again.
Yeah, sure feels like it too, doesn't
After a pandemic.
Yeah. It is funny though, because like when they showed that party at the end and it's like a flapper party, I was like, who thinks that this would actually happen?
See, now you would be the frat boy jerk in this scenario then, because none of those guys dressed up for it. It was only Charlie and everybody else that he had won over, so I'm just going to leave that there.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
There.
Yeah, I'm the asshole here. It's my fault.
You know what they all had, though, if I'm not mistaken, although I could be wrong about Dream a Little Dream since I didn't finish it, but they all have a scene in a bar with a musical band, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure. I know they do in Vice Versa and 18 Again. And maybe I'm misremembering Like Father Like Son.
And Like Father Like Son.
Isn't there a heavy metal club scene in that as well?
Date with someone to that? Or am I thinking of Vice Versa?
I know.
Oh, no, that's the club at the beginning where it's like all the women and they're the only 2 dudes. That super awkward club scene at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, so I appreciated that in 18 Again, it was a punk club and it was the Dickies and it wasn't hair metal like the other ones. So that was another plus for me if we're comparing and contrasting.
But they didn't play Killer Clowns from Outer Space, so why are you having the Dickies on the stage?
I was like, I think I know who this is. And then I had to look it up. I was like, oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
It's like when Primus is in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It's the same thing. I was just like, I know this band, but not from this. Yeah. I wouldn't have even guessed that they would be in this. It's not even mentioned anywhere that they're in this. Like, if you look on Wikipedia, it doesn't mention that they're in there. On even somehow IMDb's shitty trivia is slacking, it doesn't even mention that they're in there. Because sometimes if you have a band on screen, it's literally just like a bunch of people banging on instruments.
Yeah, no, I was surprised it was an actual band. I was like, this feels authentic to me, and that guy looks kind of familiar. I wasn't like super into the Dickies or anything, but just being alive at that time, I had some recollection of who those guys were. So
it's kind of crazy how many like really well-known character actors are in this movie that are given nothing to do. Like Jennifer Runyon, who played the girl at the beginning of Ghostbusters, that is, shares the scene with Bill Murray. Then you have Miriam Flynn, who plays Aunt Catherine in Christmas Vacation. You have Red Buttons.
Yep.
You have George DiCenzo as well. And like, they're given nothing to do.
George DiCenzo and his pants.
Yeah. Oh, what the fuck was up with that? Speaking of Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because, again, watching these with my daughter, with Jennifer Runyon, I was like, okay, she's in very briefly at the beginning of Ghostbusters, which we've watched together. She couldn't really remember that. And I said, okay, she's the girl in the Amish episode of Murder, She Wrote. And she's like, oh, yeah. So I get to throw all the Murder, She Wrote references at her because we've been watching. That's probably what my wife and daughter are doing right now, is watching reruns of Murder, She Wrote on Peacock. So,
Man, I've never delved into that show. I do love me some Angela Lansbury because, according to her, it is a tale as old as time. It is a song as old as rhyme. It is Beauty and the Beast. It is weird that Jennifer Runyon's kind of like known for one thing, and it's like such a small thing to be known for.
Yeah.
But it is such an iconic thing. Like, when I saw her, I was like, I know her from something, but I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else other than that one thing. And then when I looked up what it was, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Kind of like Miriam Flynn. I have seen her in almost nothing else other than the vacation movies.
Yeah. Jennifer Runyon, for me, I just remember having a crush on her when I was around that age. She's one good-looking chick, so... as far as Ghostbusters and Murder, She Wrote, I can't really think of anything else that I've seen her in, but I just know that I always thought she was really attractive.
And it's too bad that they don't give her anything to do in this movie.
It's the typical. I mean, what do they give the love interest to do, really? Meredith Salinger, again, not having finished that one, it seems like she has a little bit more.
She's given a lot more to do, but that's because it's like somewhat hinted at that like she is body swapped too,
right?
But she doesn't like realize it.
Yeah, that seemed really weird to me. I'm like, is she ever gonna think that she's Piper Laurie, or is that just not gonna happen? And I didn't wait around to find out, but that seems strange. Like, he keeps going up and trying to make her remember or recall that she's Gina.
Sure.
Which causes problems with the girl he's dating and causes problems with the guy that she's dating, blah, blah, blah. And I can't, like father, like son, who's the love interest in that? I don't remember. I have no recollection.
Stockard Channing. Not Stockard Channing.
Like, she seems a little old.
Not Stockard Channing. What the fuck is her name? She looks kind of like Stockard Channing. Margaret Collin, the woman from I just know her as the woman from Independence Day.
Right. Okay.
The woman who plays Jeff Goldblum's estranged wife in Independence Day. Yeah. She's the love interest. But no, there is a love interest though in that movie. I don't remember who it is.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of who's Kirk Cameron after, but maybe again, I could be just
No, he has it's that same thing where it's like it's the jock who he's like it's the track team jock. Like 18 again is very similar to like Father Like Son in a lot of ways. Aside from there's only one body swap. And I think realistically, as we kind of bring this month thankfully to a close, the body swapping I think works better if there's only one person.
I like that aspect of it. I mean, I really do. It just makes it easier on my brain to not have two things to track and get stressed out about throughout the whole movie.
And it also gets rid of you spending as much time doing two of the same kinds of gags, right? Because you're effectively having to double up on gags because you're going to do a gag of the older person or the other gender in one body and then their opposite. And it's like, Jesus Christ, this is just tedious.
Yeah, right.
Tedium.
That's a good word. I mean, that's what it feels like to me after a while. Tedium.
Yeah, it is. And like, that was the reason that Ryan Reynolds, Jason Bateman movie, when it came out, it was a fucking tedious piece of shit. It was just, it's like I don't need to see it every time.
Right.
Like,
do something completely different with it. And even with Freaky, it was driving me nuts when, Vince Vaughn had to keep on explaining, giving that you've got to give that information that only the girl would know. And yet he doesn't do it with his sister who's the cop. And it's like, you've got time to do this. Say one thing that she would recognize as only her sister being able to know. But, I guess with the movie logic, you've got to follow these steps and do these things that allow this to continue. But that always drives me bonkers.
I'm with you because it's like the one thing.
Yeah, they do it in 18 again too, but it's a lot less stressful. It's like, hey, remember that bar in the Philippines you told me about, or whatever the story is, and
the scene with red buttons.
Yeah, and only he would know that because it's a secret between the two of them. But you've got to have 2 of those scenes. You got to have 2 scenes of them in their school and or workplace trying to figure things out. You've got to have scenes with the love interests. How are they going to deal with that? The back and forth. And it just makes me curious overall as to what the deal was in the late 80s that 4 of these movies popped up all at the same time. And if you want to rope big into that as well, what was the thing that as a society or just as a Hollywood trope, what created this so close? I mean, these are really close together. All these movies came out within 2 years, 88 and 89. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre to me because like these 3 movies, at least these 3 specifically, and like you said, you roping in big, they're all so very much the same movie.
Yeah, and so I don't know if it was like, at the time I would have been completely out of the. I wouldn't have understood it at all back then. But nowadays,
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
That scripts float around for years. So was one of these scripts out there, and it passed through all these hands and finally got picked up, and everybody was like, oh, I remember that, I remember that script, and now they're going to make this movie. Don't we have a script like that? Or don't we have a script that can be shoehorned into that? And they're all different enough to where, it's not all father-son body swap. Father-son mystical body swap. This, girlfriend, trouble at work, blah, blah, blah. They're not all exactly the same, but there's enough similarities between them that you just have to think, what was the impetus for these to all come out around the same time? Because I think prior to that, wasn't maybe Freaky Friday the most recent body swap movie?
I think so.
And that was, early 70s, late 60s?
I think what they realized was just like, this is a thing that hasn't been mined. This is an older genre trope, subgenre that we can utilize and really I would say take out back and beat to death outside the woodshed in some respects. Because again, I don't think anyone who's listened to any of these episodes this month would disagree that these movies are all very samey. They are all in the same box together. Are they in different sections of the box, compartments as there would be? Sure they are, but they're still all kind of the same fucking movie. They all have an inciting swap incident, an unswapping incident, and how they get there is all slightly different, but they all play in the same playground.
Yeah.
And, we had something like, Freaky, which obviously was more contemporary. And, there are other movies that we didn't watch, I'm not going to watch Prelude to a Kiss, sorry. But it's a body swap movie. Or a movie that I'm kind of disappointed we missed, which is Switch, which is a film about a sexist womanizer killed by one of his former lovers and he's reincarnated as a woman. I would be interested to see that movie. I'm sure it's terrible. But everything we watched this month for the most part was very samey, and that's on me. But at the same time, I was curious how samey they were. And it's shocking. They're all almost the same movie.
Yeah. It's just a curious thing to think of. What is it? Just studio execs passing around an idea that's similar to something that's
What's
at
it
all these
called?
other studios.
What's that thing called that the comedians all claim, like that Amy Schumer claimed when she was stealing people's jokes? Like, oh God. They have some fucking bullshit term for like everyone supposedly thinking of the same idea at the same time. And it's
and that does happen. I mean, that's how they explain like the Renaissance. How did all these people with basically no communication in Italy and France and Denmark all figure out perspective at the same time? It's that, there is a term, and I always forget it as well. But that kind of stuff happens. It's a little harder to believe when you're talking about Hollywood. But
considering how I assume all these scripts were circulating to everyone.
Right, and that's the thing. And, I believe that two of these, I think Dream a Little Dream and maybe Vice Versa, came out from the same company. I remember seeing the same logo, and I've watched other movies in between then, so I could be confusing things again, but I do know that the DP for Dream a Little Dream and Vice Versa are the same person, because I pointed the name out to my daughter when it came up on the screen, King Baggett, and that's a name. And I said, that's what I told my daughter. I said, wow, that's a cool name. And so I remembered it, and I was started watching Dream a Little Dream today, and whose name popped up in the credits? King Baggett. So he DP'd both of those films, and I believe they both came out from Artisan Entertainment or something like that. So that kind of throws a little wrench in thinking that all these different studios came up with these different ideas, since the same studio put out two of these.
We saw how good of a job you did on the photography on the last film. We're going to put you on this next one.
I realized, I don't know what it was, something at the beginning of that movie struck a chord with me, and I thought, this scenery looks familiar. And so I got on IMDb and saw that it was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I was like, oh, that's it. This is very Blue Velvet-y. And because I've watched Blue Velvet God knows how many times,
sure.
And I just kind of recognized the tree-lined streets. And so that's sort of what kept me going for as long as I made it through the film, was just, I wonder if I could see some Blue Velvet settings here. But other than that, it was a turd, and I stopped at an hour in, and I don't think I'll ever finish it. I didn't make my daughter watch that one. I was like, I want to try and squeeze this one in today.
It is the worst of the month, and then some.
Well, maybe I do need to finish it, because I absolutely hated Like Father Like Son. So if it's worse
I
than that.
found Like Father Like Son to be mildly interesting. So. Mildly.
Yeah, I need to finish the episodes. I didn't realize they were up. So I want to hear more positive things about Like Father Like Son, and maybe I'll appreciate it ever so slightly more.
the thing that we didn't get to talk about with Dream a Little Dream that was so disappointing was the fact that Victoria Jackson is in it.
Yeah, that was really weird. That I was like, okay, is that his mom and dad, or his sister and his dad? Because I don't think that she and Alex Rocco are in the same age range.
Nope, I don't think so.
So that was another thing that kind of threw me off. Yeah, it was it had a lot of, and I took it as I'm not really paying attention to this movie, so I think I'm missing stuff. And then I realized, no, I think there's just a whole lot that's not being explained here, and is really strange. And as much as I used to have a crush on Meredith Salinger when she was in Natty Gann, and I can say that because she and I are roughly the same age. Yes, watching this now just seems really kind of gross. So,
well, yeah, it's Dream a Little Dream was the absolute just worst of the month for me, and so I'm going to ask you, since you actually watched everything. Of the things that you watched this month, which is everything but Dream a Little Dream, all the way through at least, which would be the movie that you walk away from this month saying like, oh, that one's pretty, actually pretty good?
I would have to go with 18 again. That I watched it twice and didn't, hate the idea of having to watch it a second time for this show. So, it had a warmth to it. It had a little easy charm. He was very charming throughout the film. He was easy to like, Charlie Schlatter. Of course, George Burns was good. One thing we didn't mention was the voiceover was a little bit hokey. Throughout
the
a lot of it.
voiceover was like the barest minimum that they did. They were like, George Burns is in this movie very much, huh? Like, what could we do? Oh, some like ADR. Okay. Just get George in here for like an hour.
Yeah. Some of it landed okay, and a lot of it was just really unnecessary and hokey. But that is one I could actually see if for some reason my daughter somehow, if we caught it again on TV, we would probably sit through it again. I can't imagine for the life of me, except at gunpoint, watching Like Father, Like Son again. Vice versa would be my probably second choice out of the three that I watched completely. So 18 again, Vice versa, Like Father, Like Son on the bottom. Dream a Little Dream is such a weird thing, and I didn't finish it, but I would probably still place the hour that I did watch above Like Father, Like Son.
Yeah, I thought I was hoping I would walk away from this month saying Freaky was my favorite, and it wasn't. I would actually probably go with this movie because it seemed to be the most genuine of the bunch.
Freaky I would have to probably put in just below 18 again. It's probably the movie I am more likely to rewatch just because it's a horror movie and it's contemporary, but it, again, after seeing so many of my mutuals on Twitter really raving about it, I was a little bit disappointed, but I kind of expected that as well, knowing that it leaned heavy on the comedy.
And it leaned heavy into every other horror movie ever made, because now when you make horror movies, you have to apparently wink at everyone all the time.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that was one of the few notes I wrote down for it was like, okay, there's the Halloween nod. There's the Friday the 13th
There's
nod.
the Halloween nod in the first 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. And the Halloween nod. And I know it was supposed to be called Freaky Friday the 13th originally, so you get the countdown of the days, because I thought that was weird. If I hadn't had just read that, I was like, why are they counting down to obviously Friday the 13th? But it made sense after reading that. That would be up there right with 18 again, but probably the movie that I will actually watch again unprompted. I would decide, well, maybe I'll give this one a fair shake. If, like, let's say that actress is in another film that I really enjoy or something like that. So.
What would you give 18 again out of 5?
Well, let me look at my notes, because we scored it. I can actually give you my rating and my daughter's rating.
Well, there you go. And the average of the two is just as good.
And we're kind of rough. We're stingy on our scores. So we both gave it a 3 out of 5, which for me is not incompetent, was fairly well made, had some interesting scenes, had some good. I can't complain about the acting at all in this one.
There just wasn't enough of it.
It is possible that I would watch it again. That's sort of what a 3 means to me. And I think for a lot of people that's sort of a low score, but it's just basically, this was a decent, well-made movie.
That's what I would give it. I would give it a 3 as well. I'm right there with you. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there are good enough things in this movie to warrant watching it again, but the problem with the movie are the failings are the things that I wanted more of, not things it didn't do right.
Right.
And that's a shame, because the movie short sells itself. It doesn't really shoot itself in the foot, and that's unfortunate. But according to Dale Stevens of the Cincinnati Post, he couldn't write a review for this film. He couldn't stop laughing. That's one of the little blurbs on the front of one of the box arts of the movie is like, I can't write this review. I can't stop laughing. Like,
I know that
sounds like somebody doesn't want to do their job.
Yeah, that's a cop out, fella.
Yeah. I can't stop laughing. It's uncontrollable. Like, oh, dude, it's a movie review. Movie's not even that funny. I wouldn't even say the movie's funny at all. Like, it's got a couple of funny moments, but like,
his editor's like, again, Dale.
How many movies, Dale, are you gonna claim you can't fucking review because you can't stop laughing? Maybe you need to go to the doctor. Maybe you need to go to the doctor, Mr. Dale C. But with Body Swap Month in the rearview mirror, let's play a preview for the first Kulturecast of 2021.
Mackenzie was having the best summer ever.
Can you believe they're talking about 40-foot waves?
Summer's not over yet!
West Side Story.
How can you two like this silliness?
Best movie ever made.
It's always summer and everyone just sings and surfs.
Surprise. We are leaving tomorrow.
Mac, what does she mean by leaving tomorrow?
After we lost my mom, the deal I made with my aunt was when it was time to get serious, I would leave to go to college.
But one last wave will take them to a place they never expected.
We're in the movie. My movie, West Side Story.
What do we do?
Have fun! Wow!
We're stuck in another dimension, and your idea of a good use of time is to party?
Bikers, surfers, the rivaling gangs. Stand back.
Big Mama's is a perfect hangout. We want it all to ourselves.
That might not probably happen.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
What?
My entire future depends on us getting out of here.
When will we get another chance to be in a movie?
Now,
something's not right.
They're changing the movie.
Layla and Tanner were supposed to fall into each other's arms.
But instead they fell into our arms and now they're into us. We changed the movie.
We changed the movie.
And if they don't change it back, it may change them.
What are we gonna do?
You're singing.
I'm singing.
Stop.
I can't stop.
What does that mean?
We're morphing into the movie.
And they'll never get home.
It's your hurry to grow up and leave.
Every minute that I'm here, I'm not doing what my mom wanted.
Ross Lynch and introducing Maya Mitchell. The Disney Channel original movie, Teen Beach Movie. Premieres Friday, July 19th at 8/7 Central on Disney Channel.
That's right. On the next Kulturecast 2021, we're going to be talking about Teen Beach Movie. Why? Because we're going to be talking about Disney Channel original movies in January. Why? Because they're great. Do you believe me? No. Will you? Yes. So that's all that matters. We're also going to be talking about Smart House, Camp Rock, Can of Worms, and a film that I am genuinely excited to talk about, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century. Until then, where can people find you, Mark?
They can find me at my website, wakeupheavy.com, which will have all the links to social media and SoundCloud and iTunes and all of that good stuff. And if you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's just at wakeupheavy. I'll probably also on Facebook, although I don't use that quite as much as Twitter or Instagram.
It's probably for the best given how shitty Facebook is.
Yeah, it's just not... I don't know.
It's not conducive to one's. It's not conducive to one's mental health.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Christmas Claus. I'm probably not going to change it at this point. We'll just write it for another year. So there you go. You can find this podcast on the internet at Kulturecast.com or on all iOS or Android podcatchers. It's on every single one. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kulturecast. All $1 is all it takes to get bonus content. So, hey, $1's not much, is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. $600 seem to be too much for some people, so maybe $1 is important. What do I know? I'm not worth $34 million. What else? Big thanks. I don't know where I got really angry there, like blacked out for a second. I full on blacked out.
Who did you body swap with, Chris?
Mitch McConnell.
Oh God!
He looked in the mirror.
Do us all a favor.
He body swapped with me, and then he looked in the mirror and said, "My God, what have I done?" Oh no. But yeah, and big thanks to you, Mark, for joining me. It was
thank you for having me.
Wasn't the worst first outing, all things considered. It could have been worse. But
yeah, it could have been Disney original beach bum month.
Teen Beach Movie is a Disney Channel original movie that is a send-up of teen beach movies from the 40s and 50s.
I'll have to check it out.
See what I mean? It doesn't sound as garbagey as it really could have been. Like, it's supposedly really good. So there you go. But so big thanks to you for joining me this month. And make sure to check out the next episode and stay safe into the new year, doing nothing.